Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love of Business podcast at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Miko, and I am going to be your host for today. We have a really awesome topic that I think you're going to really enjoy. But I'm going to let Guy Dawson, our guest for this week, introduce that and himself to you.
Well, thank you so much, Miko, for having me on the Love of Business show. And actually, Miko and I were at lunch last week, and we started talking about a concept that I have been thinking about for quite a while, and the overall theme is leadership in the sexes. And the specific topic or platform that we're working on is the yin and yang of leadership. And it's really about improving communication amongst the sexes, men and women. It's sort of like, what is the book that's out there, Miko? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Oh, I haven't heard that title in a long time. Yes.
Yes, you remember that book, John Gray? Actually, I met him. Fantastic guy, too. Just a wonderful person.
Cool.
And so if you've ever read that book or you have, an understanding of all of us of the differences in the sexes, but what the yin and yang leadership is all about is not so much accentuating the differences in the sexes, although we enjoy those differences, obviously, but it's also about the similarities. And a lot of it is based on some leadership experiences that I've had in female and male dominated organizations, and some of the perspectives that I've had from the interactions that I've had in those specific situations, and things that I've learned about the universal principles of leadership and how we can use these principles to improve communication amongst people on both sides, men and women.
That's going to be an interesting topic to cover because people have so many opinions that are really interesting to hear because it's a little insight into everyone's psyche, but you definitely have had some very unique experience. I know that you worked with Mary Kay, which is, not a male dominated network marketing platform, I guess you could say, or just an organization in general that's very, very feminine. And well, tell us a little bit about that. That had to have been, a unique experience.
Yes, that was definitely a unique experience, Miko. I was a Mary Kay beauty consultant for about 2.5 years in the early 2000s. And as you had mentioned, definitely a female-dominated organization. I was one of the only males in the organization. As a matter of fact, I had this great experience. The big bubble in Dallas, Texas, that's where they have the big Mary Kay convention every year. So you have people from all over the world that come to Dallas, Texas, which is where Mary Kay is from, and they put on this huge event. So I go to this event. There's, very few men that are in the Mary Kay organization. And it was just an incredible experience. I felt like I was like Michael Jackson or something. I mean, all these women are around and they wanted to take pictures with you and talk to you about your experiences. I mean, it was just amazing. But so it was a phenomenal experience overall being a Mary Kay beauty consultant. I learned a lot. I learned a lot on many levels through that experience. I learned about the wonderful marketing plan and strategies that Mary Kay has developed. And I was so impressed with the way that the business itself was run, just from purely that perspective, just being an entrepreneur, looking at it from that perspective. But as I got in and I started working with all the women that are involved in Mary Kay, being a part of the parties, a part of all the leadership training that you provide, that is provided to you as a consultant, I started to really get an understanding of the female psyche in leadership. And not that I had never seen it before. I mean, I've been in a lot of leadership endeavors throughout my lives where I've worked with women, but not in that type of an environment where it was all women for the most part. And the thing that I discovered from that particular experience was that leadership is something that is universal. And so any types of leadership experiences that I was having with all those women, being a man in that type of environment, it was all the same types of topics that I had experienced in male-oriented organizations, you know, challenges with everything. It wasn't all that different. And as I really got in and I learned more and more, I had teams. I started to have women underneath me who I was developing other leaders as I was, you know, we're building our organizations, trying to make more money. And everything that I ever had to do with any man in this female environment, all the troubles, right? The things that we experience that hold us back from achieving what we want to achieve. It's the lack of self-confidence or the lack of belief in ourselves or all our fears. It's really all tied to fear. All the fears that these women were experiencing were things that I had seen in male leaders. So my approach to leading these women, I mean, there were definitely things, of course, that the sexes are different, that are specific to those immediate sexes. But overall, I really learned from that experience that leading a woman was not that different than leading a man.
Right. There are those universal things that we share that the more we discover, the more we study the differences, I think you can't help but see the similarities as well.
I think men have, I can speak for men, you know, being one, that men a lot of times have misconceptions about what it really is like leading women. And that, you know, for a lot of times men are, some of my experiences is that men are afraid to tell women the truth. And, you know, what I learned from that being a part of Mary Kay was women absolutely want the truth. They absolutely want you to talk to them just like you talk to a man. Those women that I dealt with, that was when I was most effective. When I tried to fall back into male, some of the typical way that men can talk to women, and I was not nearly as effective as when I was upfront, honest, just the way that I would talk to a guy was when I would talk to those women, they understood and they responded much more positively than if I would treat them as if they were any different because they were a woman. I discovered that right off the bat. And that was a real eye-opener for me, not only in leadership experiences, but just dealing with women in general in life. And it's definitely contributed to me having more successful relationships since that time, is that the way that I talk to women about things has changed dramatically. And it has definitely improved my relationships, I feel.
That's really powerful. I think that comes from a lot of, you know, stereotypes of women and men that we have, like that women are sensitive or, you know, emotional. But these are things that we actually all share, and we are, you know, we are not a society that's comfortable with our emotions and with our, you know, our, well, and with our sexuality as well. Like, I think some of that awkwardness can come in where there's different stereotypes and you don't know how to act or how to communicate. But one thing I think it is an important way to look at the feminine aspect in support of what you're saying is that women are nurturers, and to be a nurturer, by nature, we're nurturers, and to be a nurturer, you actually have to think very practically. And part of being practical is having good, clear communication. And that applies whether you're a man or a woman, or a non-binary for that matter. You know, we're all, you know, humans. I joke we're humans and humanoids because some people don't fit the human, you know, description. That's my own judgment coming through.
Yeah,
But at least I can see it, you know.
I get it. I get it. Yes, and you're right. And again, this where I'm describing these leadership experiences in the universe, the universal components. It doesn't um, discard the obvious differences that there are in men and women. I mean, the fact that as you mentioned, that women naturally have biologically, it's not even, I don't think necessarily just socially. Women, because of the way that you're equipped to have children, all women are equipped to have children. So that makes women naturally more nurturing. Just like men have more testosterone that makes them physically stronger than women. There's no getting around that. It's just the way that it is. So with the yin and yang of leadership is that, this concept is not about you putting the things that make you inherently who you are on the shelf. As a matter of fact, it's really about accentuating and talking about those strengths in a positive way. So
Right.
a woman's nurturing spirit helps her as a leader, in my opinion, because she looks out for her team. Some of the greatest leaders that I have known have been some of the most nurturing people. And at the same time, they also had the ability to be nurturing and to detach themselves enough to complete the mission. Miko, we were talking about any leadership endeavor is all about the mission. And that's why I love the military, a very male dominated in thought process. The military, when you combine the two, some of the people who get missions done the most effectively that I have found have been some of the most nurturing people. And that's on the male or the female side. So it's for me, it's all about removing so many of the stigmas that are attached to the battle of the sexes.
Right.
One side feeling that they're superior to the other. Women will say women are smarter, women live longer. When you get in these battle of the sexes, these are some of the things that I've heard. Or and then men will say women are emotional, like you talked about, or women are gold diggers looking for money. You know what I mean? There's so many stereotypes that we have on both sides. The battle of the sexes, and my perspective on all of this is who wins as a result of the battle of the sexes. Do either sex really benefit from the fact that we keep dividing ourselves through the superiority or the stereotypes?
And even the complaining, like I saw a post where someone who was, a leader, very much a leader in her space, and she made a comment about how the last couple of years have not been, we've not made a lot of progress in, that there have been a bunch of setbacks. But I feel like that's like that's like a focus on lack, because because when you're moving forward, it's not linear. There's you're gonna have times when you leap ahead, and then you're gonna have like a couple setbacks, or you're gonna move forward 3 feet and back 1 foot, and it's like it's about the journey, and not so much constantly tallying up who gets more, because that's just the same of the old way, with a different dress on, as far as I'm concerned. But when we start to really see how complementary we are and how we can operate as a unit while at the same time having these unique differences, I mean, that's just like, that's like a party waiting to happen, like a party with a purpose, where you get all the strengths of the men and all the strengths of the women and all the strengths of the non-binary and all the strengths, like we get it united behind, things that we share. And instead of everybody being like, no me, no me, no me, no me, it's just, it becomes I think when you step outside of it and you're like, okay, what if I took out all the pronouns? What if I took out everything and replaced it with something else? Then it becomes about the activity and about how you take the journey. not who's taking the journey. It's like, well, how are we accomplishing what we say we want to do? By creating more division? No.
Yeah, that works
Not if the
against
goal is unity.
everything that you just talked about, dividing and pointing the fever. And again, we were discussing this, and we were talking about the garbage, right? So we're all holding on to garbage that we've been collecting over the course of our lives. People have taught us things that weren't necessarily, it was all opinions, judgments, as you had mentioned. And so we've got all these people who are sharing judgments. Of course, we've had our own experiences with the opposite sex, or as you mentioned, binary, all these experiences that we have over the course of our lives that create thought patterns. And so the yin and yang of leadership is about, as you and I had mentioned, Miko, leave the garbage at the door. Yeah. So when you become a part of this movement that we are developing, it's about, can you come to the table from a space of empowering humanity by bringing the sexes together? How's that going to make this a better world for people to live in? Are we going to be better at raising our daughters, raising our sons, communicating with our husbands, our partners, with people of the opposite sex in general? How, with the yin and yang of leadership, how can we create a movement of growth? And like you said, and not having the expectation that everything is just going to go perfectly immediately and that it's going to be a linear path. Part of the beauty of the journey is knowing that you're not going to be on a linear path, and just accepting it for what it is and making the best of your situation.
And celebrating what there is to celebrate, knowing that that's going to attract more. Like people who are focused on what's not happening they have the lack focus that ironically is continuing that same pattern. So we have to find a way to ease into a new state of being without having this enormous conflict about it, where some people are so emotionally involved in the male-female non-binary conversation that it's almost as if they want current people to pay for the sins of our fathers type thing, because that's what we do when we revisit and revisit and revisit. We actually are revisiting the sins that we condemn in others. And that's like a huge, to me, that creates cognitive dissonance, where you're saying one thing and you're doing something else because you're holding two opposing beliefs. That the way to conquer is to divide, but actually, that's not the highest level of conquering, which is to conquer yourself. And so I think that the power of this conversation is going to be the questioning that we have of our own belief systems and leaving the garbage at the door.
Yeah, the sense of satisfaction, Miko, that we can hold, right? There's sort of a smug sense of satisfaction that a man or a woman, or however you want to identify yourself with, can hold on to in terms of reliving the past in a negative way. And as you mentioned, just continuing to recreate situations that you've recreated in the past. There can be a certain amount of satisfaction that it's not healthy, in my opinion, to be satisfied with a bad result that was created in the past. And I'll give you an example of that. Many years ago, when I was a Mary Kay beauty consultant, it was around Valentine's Day. And I got together with a couple of other reps, and we went out to car dealerships all over Las Vegas, and we would put together little packages of things. So these guys, very male-oriented industry, car dealerships, for the most part, most are guys. So we went on these car lots, and we were, we knew that they were going to be busy working all day on the car lots and may not have time to be able to go and get something for their loved one for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So as we went to these car dealerships and we had all these beautiful, perfume, these wonderful things all wrapped and ready for these guys. And some of them, they were all over it. Great opportunity, right? Came out of their pockets, gave us money. But then you had an amazingly large percentage of guys. This is something that I noticed, and the women that I was with, that were harboring all of these negative feelings and had all these horrible things to say about women. And I thought, like, wow, you really are setting yourself up, as you had mentioned, Miko, by reliving. This is a joyous day, a day of love. And on this day of love, when you've got the opportunity maybe to be more loving to someone else, whoever it is, male, female, or otherwise, that you choose to be more loving with, you choose to relive the negative.
Yeah.
So you're setting yourself up for more experiences like that. And that was really an eye-opener for me, even being a guy, and being around guys all my life. And I know how guys can talk about women. But to actually experience that day, it was a real eye-opener about the disconnect that we have. And of course, that was many, many years ago. And of course, so for me, having lived more time, more experiences myself, I'm at a different space in life than I was in 2007. And at this stage in my life now, I just don't see how that type of division really is something that serves humanity. It doesn't make men healthier. It doesn't make women healthier, and it doesn't make our world healthier. So I know, as you had mentioned, Miko, we're taking on a topic that people have very strong opinions about, and I welcome it, as long as you don't just bring your garbage in and just think that it's okay that we accept that. The fact that you share it I don't have a problem with it. But as long as you come with the understanding of I'm going to leave my garbage at the door, not to say that it's not going to seep into the conversations that we're going to have, but overall, I want to clean up as much of my garbage as I possibly can. If I'm going to bring my garbage to the table when it comes to the yin and yang of leadership, it's not about pointing the finger. It's all about, how can we make it a little bit better? How can we clean this up? Can we help one another, empower one another to clean some of the garbage up?
Right, exactly. And that takes honesty, and that takes humility, to acknowledge that, like, yeah, I have garbage. And,
yes. And I have it, Miko. I'm not doing this because I am free of it.
Oh my God. Like, I know, like, I've got tons of stuff that I've been working on, I did a photo shoot by the garbage one day just to kind of epitomize, like, or, if that's the right word, embody how I felt about my, I jokingly called it my situation. And, it's just when it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm a trash can because I need to review so many belief systems and get rid of them. I am the garbage. No, just kidding. But, we have so much goodness in us, and there are so many things that are happening even under the surface that I think will do really well to focus on that. I know that has benefited me, but I wanted to talk about one quick thing before we have to wrap up for today. And that is the 50-50 mindset. And I've heard this again from people who are leadership in, socially, have like, a lot of influence. And it's this idea that the male female needs to have a clean 50-50 split, whether it's on like, who pays the bills, and not just in dating, but like, business lunches or whatever. It's like some people are very, very adamant about there being a 50-50 split. And I find that, I actually find that's another limited mindset, because instead, why aren't you bringing 100%? Because if you bring 100%, it's more likely the other person's going to bring 100% too. But if you're sitting there like, well, it's going to be 50-50, then, what you're doing is saying, I'm only going to give 50.
Yes.
And and it's like, well, why the heck would I want to be with that? Because I want 100%. I want your 100%. I want my 100%. And let's put our 100% together and see what kind of amazingness we can come out of, because we can come up with, because as we interact and open up and let go of our garbage and be like, oh yeah, I got garbage too. Like there's this, I think part of the stigma that we got to get over is the fact that anyone is better than anyone else in every single way. It's just not the case. It's so situational. And that's one thing that Taoism and the yin and yang has taught me, is that it's so situational. And when you bring your baggage into it, you're bringing baggage into the situation. And sometimes that happens, like if we have PTSD or we have different, and a lot of people, I think there's a huge wave of healing going on that we can take advantage of. But a lot of people, feel shame about having garbage, but garbage is just a part of life. We all have to take out our trash,
Yes, over and over and over again.
Right. And you can see it as something dirty to be ashamed of, or you can just see it as a natural process, which is like, okay, that's old. I don't need to think like that anymore. And then watch where that takes you. Because I know for a while, like I had some really big, deep things, like fears and anger towards men. But I was like, I refuse to have my experiences cloud my future experiences, But it takes time, and it takes acknowledging where you want to improve, which means you got to look at what's not the best. And and be honest about that. And I think the more that men and women are honest, the more I'm honest with my with where I'm at and what I want to do, the clearer my communication becomes, and then the outcomes become better. Because when you're clear with your intent and communication, people are usually pretty accommodating.
Yes, it's all communication. It goes back to that. And I know you spoke about that earlier today, Miko. And I just want to share with the audience that this is a journey that Miko and I are going on together. She is going to be my partner in the development of this of this yin and yang leadership platform. And we don't know exactly where it's going to go. We're just kind of introducing it to the world. But I gave a speech I'm in Toastmasters, and I gave a speech in one of my Toastmaster clubs a couple of days ago, like I had mentioned to you, Miko, with the basic principles of this. And I got some amazing feedback. I prayed a lot before I did it. And what came out of my mouth was, it's all about empowerment. It's all about making people's lives better and making people, have healthier experiences on this planet. Who doesn't want that? Doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, gay, old, young. Who doesn't want to have a
non-binary,
binary? You know what I mean? It makes no difference. There are certain things that we all want as human beings. And so these are some of the things that we want to explore under the title of the yin and yang of leadership. I happen to be a very leadership oriented person, and I know Miko is as well. And so I look forward to sharing this platform with the world. We're going to have workshops and talks and things related specifically to improving human relations through the yin and yang of leadership, embracing the masculine and feminine that we all have inside of ourselves, embracing and feeling empowered and inspired by it, not looking at it again from the garbage perspective. We all know there's plenty of garbage. We know we're all carrying it around, and like as you mentioned, it's not a shame to be carrying around garbage. If there's any shame, I think it is when you know that there's something greater out there and you decide that you're still going to carry around your garbage. Not to say that that's shame, but I think that that's where you become disempowered, is when you know that there's an alternative, when there is a way that you could be empowered and you choose not to. Well, we all make choices,
Yeah.
So yes, I'm really looking forward to sharing this along with my co-hostess with the mostest, Miko Faith, these perspectives on the battle of the sexes and that there isn't a battle of the sexes, that there is a
The
growth
collaboration
of
of the sexes.
Yes, collaboration of the sexes and improvement of relationships all over the world.
Yep. That's the goal. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today and for watching The Love of Business, everyone. Do stay tuned for more great shows at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Have a
great day,
wonderful
everyone.
day.